cr101radio.com, podcasts, and more. Welcome back to another episode of Preschool Pioneers. I'm your host, Jeremy Walker. You can follow us on our parent network, CR101 Radio, on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Gab, and YouTube. And you can subscribe to this podcast on your preferred platform so you never miss an episode. Visit cr101radio.com for these links. Welcome back, everybody, to Preschool Pioneers. Today's episode is entitled, Why is for Your Body Your Choice? How the God-given protections for women and children are under attack, and what Christian parents and teachers can do about it. On this episode, we are going to be talking about what is considered to be a political slogan. That slogan is, my body, my choice. You'll see people at events usually covering the concept of abortion, where, of course, they want the choice to destroy and murder their children. Well, this slogan goes beyond that now. It encapsulates not just women, but also children. So I want to jump straight into this episode by discussing, of course, the slogan that advocates for infant murder, or what some people like to call abortion. Now, the only thing we've done is try to clinicalize the subject, where we have a doctor who is going to take you into a sterile room, the woman, and without ripping the child out of their stomach, they're going to go inside the woman and rip the child apart piece by piece by piece by piece, literally dismembering and crushing the child's skull. This is one of the most heinous acts on the planet that can be done to another human. But we have, in our great savvy and moral correctness and moral ideas of humanism, said, well, this is just a choice. It's not really a child. Well, everybody knows that, including the people who are paying these murderous doctors, I won't even call them doctors, they're just serial killers, to mutilate, chop up, dismember, and rip apart their child. Their body, their choice. This, of course, has roots in a deeply held religious belief about being God. We're going to get into some of this in a minute. See, this slogan not only covers people wanting to do this, allowing women to make the choice to murder their children, and, of course, the man has no choice. The father of this child is not involved. They'll even say it's not your body, it's not your choice. It's my body, and it's my choice to keep the child. We've gone now to this slogan also advocating for children. It's their body, and therefore it should be their choice. This is going into the new psychotic, perverted idea of child mutilation and chemical castration of children, or what they like to call gender transitioning nowadays. This, of course, is the secondary, most heinous thing you can do to a person, to mutilate and destroy their reproductive abilities. You're destroying what the person is created to be and eliminating their future. They can no longer have children. You have destroyed the future for this person. According to God, this is a heinous act. Right in line with murder, and has a capital offense to it. The same as if you were going to murder somebody, you are murdering their future to deliberately destroy the reproductive system on purpose. This is a heinous and disgusting act. And, of course, they are getting children to believe that it's their body, and therefore it's their choice what to do with their body. Now, these are the same children that have to be 21 before purchasing cigarettes. They have to be 21 before they, of course, can purchase alcohol. They're just fine at 18 to go ahead and go to war and die and be killed by foreigners for political events and needs and wants of political peoples. But they better not smoke a cigarette, and they better not drink any alcohol. But they can die in war, and even younger, all the way down maybe to the ages of 12. If they want to, they can tell us to chemically castrate them in their future, rip off and destroy their genitals, and pervert their bodies. This is disgusting. At no point in time should anyone feel any compunctions about being spirited about this event and say, no, no, no. Disgusting, perverted. And if you have any point of view beyond that, there is no way to reason with you from a godly perspective. Because humanism, fine. If that's your perspective, that's your perspective. But it will never be God's perspective for his world and what he envisions for it. They say that there are high rates of suicide for people who get abortions, and especially for children who decide that they want to chop up their body parts, and the insane perverts of the world help them do it. Yes, high suicide rates. Why? Because whenever you try to live in God's world, breaking God's commandments, it breeds guilt. And no amount of people affirming you in your decisions to do evil is going to take away the guilt that God has placed upon you and in this world. Moving on about the protections, because we're talking about what women are doing today, which is absolutely destroying them and their futures, completely destroying themselves. So let's go through some of these God-given protections, because women and children are the most at risk. Absolutely. And this is known. God tells us in his word this is the case. This is why people in particular who help widows and orphans, in particular, who don't have the natural protections of men, in particular fathers, husbands, and the like, these people are going to be preyed upon by evil people and abused in many ways. And God despises the abuse of women and children. And that's what these subjects are talking about. People advocating that women murder their children and convince them it's a good idea or let them do it. And without restraint, we're just going to affirm your decision. And for the children, confusing these poor children and getting them to ask you to mutilate them is perversion. This goes into pedophilia, where they also want the child, if the child can ask to have sexual relations with people, shouldn't they be allowed to do so? Isn't it because they're not trying to rape children? They're just trying to get their consent. This is the problem of pedophilia. Yeah, they try to say, well, it's not rape. Yes, it is. It is rape. Even when you ask somebody and you convince them to do it and they think it's a good idea, it is still rape. Anything and any sexual activity done with anybody other than your spouse is a form of rape. End of story, full stop. That is it. There is no such thing as consent to break God's commandments. No one can consent to you murdering them. That's why these ideas of the Dr. Kevorkians of old, and now in Canada, you can choose to have the medical field murder you. These things are evil. Some of the protections that God has built into the world. I'm going to give you a list and we'll continue to discuss them. God's law is number one. That's why Christian teachers and Christian parents are so important. We are important because we are the ones who are going to be teaching God's law. That's your job. It's for you, it's for your family, and it's for everybody that will listen to you. God's law is the fabric of society. It's how the world works. If you want to be blessed in this world, then operate according to how God designed it. Same as fire is hot. Don't touch it unless you want to be burned. If you're going to break God's laws, you are going to suffer the consequences for doing so. So one of the main ways we help people prosper is by teaching God's law. So they know the truth. They know what is for their best benefit and how God created them and how they can prosper in his world. The second thing is the family, the most basic institution of the world, how God created society. The family is at the bedrock. If you want to destroy civilization, you destroy, first, its religion, get rid of God's law. Second, you get rid of the family. That's the second most important thing. And every evil cabal in the world, if it's be communism or socialism or insert whatever here, they know these two things are paramount. You must destroy religious belief in God, in particular, in his commandments and his world, and you must destroy the family. So there is not a support structure there for the men, for the women, or the children. Everybody is supported through the family, including children and the elderly. The family is the bedrock for support and safety. Then comes, say, the church or the Christian community that's out there. It further helps support families, widows, and orphans, as we've talked about. I won't go into great detail here, but Christian communities, as they come together, help with health benefits of taking care of health costs, food costs, housing costs. It doesn't matter what kind of thing and support that you need. If you don't have the family, if you don't have parents, if you don't have whatever, then the Christian community comes together and helps support you. Now, the civil government would like to do that with the concept that they like to call welfare. But this is not a replacement for God's system of charity. And I say the Christian community because that is the basic institution for charity and charitable help. Going on to the next level is the civil government. This is a protection for everybody, men, women, and children. Its goal is not to govern you so much as it is to defend you and to protect you. And what law does it use to say what is just and not just? Well, real simple. God's law. It undergirds every institution, every relationship, every law system. This is what everything is built upon, God's law. And when the government does its job, it punishes evil, suppresses evil, and it promotes good. If you just look around the world today, it's very easy to see what happened, especially over the last 4 years in particular. What happened in the United States of America. We're going to get to some of this in a minute, talking about news and events. But when the civil government forgets its job, when the church or the Christian community refuses its job, whenever the family doesn't do its job, when teachers and parents don't do their job, teaching God's law to everybody, everything falls apart, everything turns to chaos, and everything runs amok. People are alone, people are isolated, people are abused, people are seduced, people are destroyed. And that's what you're seeing in the world. Whenever we don't properly teach God's commandments and then follow God's commandments. Because there is this idea, I mentioned a minute ago with politics. What is it that people are worshiping? We just had Donald Trump win the election here in 2024 and will take office very soon, coming in January. And we already saw people, they have them losing their minds on social media. Why are they losing their minds? It's real simple, because they hate the idea of losing ground. That's right, they hate the idea of losing ground, because for the women that are out there that say, my body, my choice, for the women, they're losing their claim to godhood. They can't create life because they don't create children. Now, they can have sex, but it does not mean that a child will result from every time that they have sex. It's not their decision. Their decision, of course, if they have sex or not. But it's God's decision to give life to who and when he wants to. Since they can't create life, the only thing they can do to appear godlike is to kill. The power to kill, to murder. And so to take away their choice, their power to kill and murder, then you're taking away their godhood, their most basic religious belief in saying, I hold the power of God. That's why they're going to scream. That's why on the ticket, the Democrats over there, one of the biggest things on the ticket, why vote for Kamala Harris? Because she will let you continue to murder children. That's right. If you get pregnant, you have the power now to murder this child. And it's already seen across the internet. It doesn't need to be spoken about much, but they know what they're doing, and they love the idea. They joke about it, that they're murdering the child that's in them, and they know what they're doing. Many of them take great pride in letting the child grow, many months right before birth, and then murdering it as late as possible. It gives them glee. These are evil people. These people need the truth, and they need to be stopped. That's where civil government comes in and stops murderers. We are always going to be pushing morality on someone. Either it's going to be a godly morality that's imposed on the individual, you do it to yourself, and then you pressure your family to keep God's commandments, and then your place of business, and then, of course, the civil government and society. Somebody is going to be setting the standards. Somebody is going to be enforcing those standards one way or the other. There's no way around it. And so, yes, the civil government has the right to impose God's law on society and individuals, to bless those who are keeping the commandments and to suppress those who are breaking them and destroying themselves and others. Now, the state is the God for such people. It's absolutely their God. So whenever a person like Trump comes in, and he, by no stretch of the imagination, is what I would call a Christian, though in some form and fashion, I think I've heard him say that he is. But we'll take what we can get when we get it. And right now, America is going in the right direction. God's got it on course, using the people that he wants to use. And in this case, he's using people like Elon Musk. He's using people like Trump. Lots and lots of other peoples to turn America back from the edge. And that's where America was at. And God allowed it to get there, to show us how bad we were. A lot of times, God has to let you see all the terrible things so you can then fix them. We should never let it get there, but he does allow us mercies to see it and try to fix it, which we're hoping to see in the next 4 years, working on that, and in the years to come, many years to come. The ungodly state, empowers these women for the power over life and death, and it empowers them over their children. See, these parents, the same ones who love abortion, are the same ones who are on the side of trying to convince their children that they're not who they were born to be, either a male or a female. And these are the ones convincing, the women are convincing these children that they are something they're not. They'll say, oh, it's the child's choice. No, it's not. No, it's not. You are putting these ideas into the child and claiming they belong to the child. Why? Because you want to mutilate the child. They want to mutilate their child. They want to castrate chemically their children. They want to castrate them physically, tear off their genitals, tear off their breasts if they're older. They want to disturb their normal processes of puberty. They want to turn their children into a science experiment that only leads to death. They are mutilating their children, and the civil government is clapping and helping them do it. See, these people are giving power over their children in this manner. They are hurting their children, not just in the womb, but outside of it as well, destroying everything about them. And the state says, we will help you and let you convince your child this is good, and then we will do it. These children are 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Mention they can't even buy cigarettes, but they can be convinced to let a doctor chop off their genitals. Perverts all across the board. But they need the state to support their claim to godhood. That's why they love this idea. And the children and the women are the ones that either need to be stopped, like the women who are doing this stuff need to be stopped by the civil government. That's their rightful job to do that. And, of course, the children and the women who are being seduced in lots of ways. Lots of women are confused. Elon Musk came out. He, of course, said that what turned him was that his son was, once again, seduced, same as he was, by what he called the woke mind virus. And this, he supported the idea of his son undergoing all this stuff and mutilated him, and he has no future anymore. And he says that my son is now dead. And he hates with a passion the people that allowed this to take place, and the guilt is there on himself. And he has made it a dedication of himself to fight this. And this is what it takes. And God is using people like Elon Musk to combat such things. But Christian teachers, our job is to be on the forefront. We are supposed to be the pointy tip of the spear, teaching about these things and against them. So all this wraps up into the fact that if we follow God's commandments, ourselves personally, if we take care of our families, if we in our small communities support each other in a godly fashion, we will be able to eradicate all the things that harm women and children. And yes, women do need a protection. They have husbands and fathers for a reason to help them. People can easily convince women of things to do, things that it can be horrible, like murdering their children. And they do need somebody to say, no, 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 no. We are not doing that. You will not convince my daughter of this. You will not convince my wife of this. We are not doing this. And this is one of the main reasons why men are despised. Men are going to be told that they are too powerful. You're misogynistic. You just want control over everybody. Well, men do need to have control in order to protect. That's the point. Their power and their authority is not just theirs to do with what they want with. It's godly given. And if men exert godly authority, they will protect women and children. And if everybody teaches God's commandments, those women and children will understand that they need those protections and will seek them out. Instead, they're taught that this is evil because they hate God. Therefore, they flee from the God-given authorities and create their own in the civil government. And the civil government hates their guts. It will completely use them for its own purposes and throw them in the gutter. That's what it's doing to every woman. That's what it's doing to every single child. Humanism destroys the same people that claim to support it. There is no love between those who worship the state and the state who claims to be their God. The only love you're going to find in protection is in the true God of Scripture, in Christ, His law, and His foundation for society. If we as Christian parents and teachers do our job, we can help everybody. Let's jump now to the importance of Christian schools. And the part of this podcast is the promotion of why Christians should become teachers. On our website, on cr101radio.com, you can find materials there for various things. We have books on there talking about the promotion of Christian schools in particular and how you can get involved, starting a Christian school to help other people, and materials to help you do that. We even have a Christian curriculum for preschool on there. So take a look when you get time. That's at cr101radio.com, and that's for materials. Now let's jump to the current state of education in our last minutes here. And I only want to touch on a few things. One was a clip showing women talking, and this was a video of educators. And these educators were talking about how it's very, very important that the Department of Education in Maine in particular was very concerned that children could turn out with ideas of their own. They must be the ones. They must get all the children as young as humanly possible, all the way down to infancy. And they must be the first persons to get in there and indoctrinate those children, to teach them their doctrines, so they don't grow up with a different idea of morality that the educators here, the humanist educators, don't want them to possess. In particular, why Christian teachers are so important. They are humanist teachers. They are religious, the same as us, and they get it. They don't want them to come up with their own ideas. I agree. As Christians, we don't want children to come up with their own ideas of morality because they're only going to be wrong. We want them to know the truth. They have their truth. We have God's truth. The only difference is not if we have the same ideas, which we do, the same concept, which we do. Children should be taught from the youngest of ages how to live in this world that God created successfully. In their minds, they're trying to teach children how to live in a fictional world that doesn't exist and only leads to death. Another clip I have here is a woman holding up a sign that says, "Choice comes before you create life." So she's against abortion. Well, the idea is that you don't create life, as I mentioned beforehand, and that's part of the problem. You don't create life, and you don't control death. We have to give up claims to godhood and be just people under God, and we can be happy and blessed. I saw another one. It said, a little meme here, it shows Terminator Salvation, Christian Bale. They were the resistance, of course. And it says, what you thought joining the resistance would look like, and your military personnel taken over by force. And it says, bottom half, what it actually looks like, and it's a father, a mother, and children, and they're going to church. And this is what the real resistance looks like. Well, I couldn't agree more with that. See, Christianity is not about a violent revolt. We're picking up guns and taking over. No, we are going to educate. We're going to come in and teach the people God's law. We're going to teach the people God's commandments and how to live. And that, through the Holy Spirit's work, is going to change the person, the family, and the world. And that's the goal. Not that we are going to take over the world, but that God already has control of the world. The question is, are you going to be rewarded for your work and your actions? Well, thank you again for joining me on Preschool Pioneers. This is Jeremy Walker, signing off. God bless.